Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversations. Folks, we got a lot to talk about here on the show today. First and foremost, happy Friday, everybody. We got all the way to the end of the week, and we are certainly excited to have you. First up, let's talk a little bit about what's going on with this whole situation about education. We're going to be checking in with our sister Kimberly Morrow, as there's a crisis in education of not having enough teachers, and it doesn't look like things are going to get any better over the next few years. We're going to talk about that. And then later on, we're going to continue the conversation around former Harvard President Claudine Gay, as she has put out a New York Times op-ed about what she saw happening and what led up to her resignation this week. We'll talk a little bit about that. And in New York City, there's a new law that shows that requires cosmetologists to have education about textured hair. We're going to be checking in with our sister Reverend Berniece to get the latest on that situation and so much more. And of course, tomorrow is the January 6th anniversary. And I'm asking the question, do we need to make this like a federal holiday? We'll talk about that as well. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Oh, man, it's happy Friday. Can we get a little something for the Friday, folks? Folks that are checking in from around the country. There we go. Happy Friday. Happy Friday, folks. Happy Friday. The first Friday of 2024, and we are already here, Friday, January the 5th. We got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, we are streaming on a number of different platforms. Make sure you check us out at blackstarnetwork.com. Go to our website today, download the app for free. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And of course, we ask for your financial donations. Yes, this push will continue into 2024 as we're seeking investors and stakeholders for this digital movement that we are embarked upon. So your donation makes a world of difference here for us here at Black Star Network as we continue to put out this content that's specifically designed and targeted for Black America. So go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, we are streaming live on Amazon platforms, so Amazon News on your Fire TV, on Amazon Prime Video. Make sure you check us out there, folks, if you haven't. Prime Video app under Live TV, the news. Or find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video, then Live TV, then News. Also, we're on the Freevee Network, so check us out there on now under News. We're on the Freevee Network and Plex TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can find us right there. Just search for Black Star Network on Freevee, or find us on the Live TV News and Opinions. All right. I am really excited. I'm going to be joined in a few moments by one dynamic sister. She is an educator. She's been working in education for many years, and she has served as an administrator, a co-founder of a school principal. I mean, she's done a lot of work. We're going to be joined in a few moments by my sister, Kimberly Morrow. And also, there we go, a little something for Kim. And a little bit later on, we're going to be checking in with Culture Crew member, college advisor, and administrator, Reverend Bernice, to talk to us about some of the things that she's seeing on these conversations as well. And of course, I want to hear from you. Make sure y'all check in, and as we are streaming on all of these platforms, especially on social media, on Roland Martin's Facebook page, Roland Martin's YouTube page. Those are the spaces where you also can join us on the chat. So if you're on a Facebook page, make sure you join us in the chat. Big shout out to the crew on the Facebook page. And then we got the Culture Crew on the YouTube page as well. So big shout out to all of them who are checking in right now. And people are checking in, man. What a great show we had yesterday. Let me just say that. We had a dynamic show yesterday. Truly enjoyed the conversation. I truly enjoyed all of the feedback that we got over yesterday. And I am really excited to hear what all of you have to say today. So thank y'all so much, crew, for making this experience of hosting this show such a wonderful experience. Big shout out to all of the folks: Damon Blissett, Big Brother Willie Frazier, Tiana, the ABX girl, Ming Lee, Natasha, Serge, I see you. Arlene Starks, I see you. Deidre Hall, I see you. DJM 1212, I see you. I see you, DJM. You say federal holiday, I got you. Ming Lee, Natasha, Serge, we got you. Who else we see in here? Cindy D, I see you. This is the crew. This is the crew right here. There we go. All right, let's kick it off today, folks. First one, I wanted to have this conversation. I want to bring my sister Kimberly Morrow into the discussion. Good afternoon, Kim. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good today. I'm feeling good.
You got your black fist up there. What kind of shirt you rocking today?
Yes. So empowering children is the way to go. Yes.
There it is. There it is. There it is.
Yes.
I hear that. All right, Kim. We're going to take a quick pause, but let me get this conversation started, because before we talk about the education, Reverend Bernice King came out yesterday when she was kind of announcing some of the big plans that she and the King Foundation and the groups that she's working with will be planning to do for this year's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. celebration that it's just right around the corners. See, Dr. King Day falls on which day this year, Kim? It's always a Monday. It's always a Monday. But Reverend Bernice King came out as she was talking about all of these big plans for this year. She came out to really warn where we are in America. She made a dire warning. She used the opportunity to announce these events, but she put out some warnings. And I want to just put this up here very quickly. We got to take a quick pause, and when we come back, we can go further into it. But this is what she said, according to the reports. Take a look at this. Let's put up quote one, please. Thank you, please. Reverend Bernice King used an address to announce events for the upcoming holiday in honor of her father to warn that humanity was at a critical juncture. She said, "We are witnessing unprecedented loss of human life, and especially among the Black, brown, and indigenous people throughout the world." She also mentioned conflicts in Yemen, Congo, and Ethiopia, and cited racism against Black people as another threat to humans, saying it remained a blight more than 50 years after her father was assassinated. I want to take a quick moment, giving you a quick moment on this. She's putting this out there, but how significant is this warning, especially coming from the likes of a Reverend Bernice King?
This is extremely significant, and she is spot on, Farajii. She is spot on. We've been saying that over and over, that the whole situation, not just in the United States, but around the world, is dire. And I'm so glad she said that. I'm glad his daughter is leading this charge. Absolutely.
We got to take a quick pause. When we come back, I want to get it from, I'm going to hit my sister Kim up and ask her, I want to know, how do we get into a better space educationally in teaching young people and adults about the significance of the times that we're living in? I want to have this discussion. Crew, I want you to post your thoughts as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page, Roland Martin's Facebook page. Let's talk about what Reverend Bernice King has been discussing, or at least put out there, and that this is a critical juncture for humanity, that we are being pushed to the brink. And I want to get your take on that. So we'll have this conversation as we kick it off here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. Stay with us.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, checking in with my sister and new culture contributor, Kimberly Morrow, who is an educator as well as an administrator in a couple of different schools. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the education piece in a moment. But we wanted to start the conversation off today talking about what Reverend Bernice King, the daughter of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., what she has put out yesterday as part of her address to announce some of the big events surrounding her father's holiday coming up this month. And she put it out there that we are in a very, very critical juncture at this time, that we are witnessing, as she said, unprecedented loss of human life and especially the Black, brown, and indigenous people throughout the world. Now, she also said something else that I thought was very important. I want us to kind of put that out there. And then, crew, I want to hear what your take is on what you thought of what Reverend King is putting out there. Let's put up the second quote, please, Lise. She said this: "We face individual and collective choices that will determine whether we will continue to diminish, to continue to diminish and devastate humanity and the earth, or if we will become co-conspirators to shift the cultural climate throughout our nation and world." That's a dire, dire warning and a major a major decision that has to be made on this situation. So I want to hear what y'all got to say as we talk to Kimberly Morrow, and get your sense from you. What is it that you think is happening in this country and around the world, and why it's important for us to at least have this part of the conversation where, as Reverend King puts it out there, that we're at a critical juncture. We're facing some very, very big challenges that affects all. It's not just a challenge that affects Black America, white America. It affects the whole globe. We're in a very, very important time. And so I want to bring my sister Kimberly Morrow back in. We got Kimberly back on. I know she has some connection issues. So let's see if we can bring her back in. Okay. All right. We're going to work on getting her in. And crew, I would love to get what you have to say on this as well, crew. Join us in the conversation as we are streaming right now on Roland Martin's YouTube page, on Roland Martin's Facebook page, and I would love to hear what y'all have to say. Mike Burris, you said hashtag solution, Mike, we switch Black to a third political party for political leverage in 2024. We had the conversation yesterday, Mike. I don't know if you were able to tune in about this, the growing conversation, what we're seeing among Black voters, how they're now, according to some polls, Black voters are looking at a third party candidate. But I'm not even sure, Mike, if it's just about a candidate or even about a political party. I think there's something even more deeper than that, right? I think those things contribute. I think those things are important, but I think there is something deeper that is happening. Let's keep it in the country, that is happening with Black, brown, and indigenous people. Even something deeper that is happening within white America, where we're faced with some very, very serious challenges, right? Challenges that if they aren't addressed by us and this generation, then it's going to be a sin to pass on to the next generation, to our children and grandchildren. Nigel, I hope I'm saying his name right. I'm gonna say Inja Kenneth. I think I'm saying that correctly. And if I'm mispronouncing your name, please, I apologize. Definitely not trying to do that. But you said, I am with Reverend Bernice King. This is a critical time in situations across the world. And I'm glad that she's lifting this up. I mean, we have heard some leadership, and this is part of my frustration, that sometimes Black leaders don't speak to the underlying issues, right? We speak to the economics, we speak to politics, but I'm talking about those things that are beyond those things. And I know that maybe we feel like, oh, well, if we had a better economic situation, we would be better, in a better place. If we had a better political situation, we would be in a better place. I'm not that convinced that those two parts of our lives would change the dynamic that we're seeing right now. I'm thinking about a deeper issue that's happening here. John, thank you so much, John. Appreciate you for posting that. Thank you, John. But there's something deeper happening here. And I'm hoping that we can start to think much more critically, not just about the things that we discuss on the show, but how many of us take this when we're at home, when we're with family members, or even with friends, that we see something, that we feel something, that when you go out into the world, when you go out into the streets, whether you're going to the supermarket or you're running your errands or something, and you hear the stories and you see the faces, and there's something deeper that is happening among people. I'm talking about right in wherever you are in this country, around the world. Something deeper is happening. Something deeper is happening. Willie Frazier, big brother Willie Frazier, you say back in the third party only worth maximum Black voter participation. The few that vote cannot push a third party candidate. We continue the conversation on that. We're continuing the conversation on that. But there is something deeper that is happening. Now, brother Willie, I appreciate you for posting that. Kalia, 55, you said we need to specifically focus on Black issues. I want to know if we have, do you feel like, Kalia, haven't been focusing on Black issues? Because I feel like we do talk about Black issues. We talking about, of course, here on the Black Star Network, but even in mainstream spaces, quote unquote, right? Black issues are being discussed. The plight of Black people in this country is being discussed all over the place, all over the country, all across the globe. Black folks in America are part of huge discussions right now. So we focused on Black issues, but I'm going to push the envelope on this one, Khalil. I want to say that there is a human issue and not just a Black issue that I think we're facing in this country. Now, you might disagree on that, but I'm seeing something different. I'm hearing something different. You're welcome, Big Brother Frazier, Brother Willie. Thank you so much. Brian Christian, you said, here's an idea for a good start. VP Harris should take back her answer about America not being racist and say it is racist. Think of it as the first step of many steps to deal with our trauma. I like it. I like it. I don't think it's going to happen, Brian, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I see what you're saying is that America, as a woman, a Black woman in a very, very high profile, powerful position like the vice presidency, if she started the process of acknowledging the trauma that face Black, brown, and indigenous people, and I mean, they will probably tell you, Ryan, like, no, we have been saying this. We have been doing this. And I get it. But I'm talking about sincerely acknowledging the trauma. And tell me if I'm wrong, because I can be wrong. Have we ever heard of any president of the United States acknowledge chattel slavery, apologize for chattel slavery? Have we heard any president of the United States, and I'm looking at what Reverend Bernice King put out there. She talks about racism. She talks about, what else? Talking about racism. We're talking about, with her father, poverty. We're talking about warfare. Have we heard any president, vice president, congressional member, congressperson acknowledge that America needs to change her ways? And we need to, as you said, Brian, I think I agree with you wholeheartedly, start the steps to acknowledging the trauma that has been placed upon Black, brown, and indigenous people. Have we really had that? Have we really had that? I don't think we have. I don't think we have. And unless this country starts to face what has already happened, whether you're talking about with chattel slavery or what is currently happening, where you're talking about this ongoing, the legacies, y'all remember that word, the legacies of slavery, whether it's gentrification or redlining or any other legacy, voter suppression, whatever the case may be, the legacies of slavery, where you keep one group down and another group high up. If we haven't talked about that, we're not going to go anywhere in this country. That's the space that I'm in. If we have not talked about that, if we have not confronted those demons, taken those skeletons out the closet, then we can't go anywhere. We cannot go anywhere. Ming Lee, Natasha Surge, Ming, you said exactly the fate of humanity is on the table. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This is how critical the situation is. Y'all remember yesterday I made the statement, and we got to take a quick pause after this. Yesterday I made the statement that I don't think that we will see another quote unquote regular election over these moving forward. I think after President Obama, I think that the election situation, I think that where we are in this country has changed dramatically. And it's still changing. Some things are getting better, but then some things are getting more dire. But I think that when people, especially those who are within our community, from among our people, who are raising their voices, who are calling out, who are issuing warnings, I don't think we should just gloss over that. I don't think we should take that as light. I think that we should really think about this, right? And Reverend Bernice King, coming from the King family, but more importantly, being a student of her father's philosophy, she put it out there that nonviolence needs to be the way. But for a country that has over 400 million, nearly 500 million guns, for a country that is suffering from mass shooters to domestic terrorism, for a country that is going through all of the changes as it relates to race and sex and economic disparity, for a country that's really beset by catastrophic storms and weather changes, something has to be done. There has to be a new course of action, and maybe Black America can lead the way, but something has to be done. Something has to be done. We are at that brink, y'all. We are at that brink. And the more we don't want to address it, don't want to think about it, the more it's like a cancer. It will continue to grow and fester, and it will continue to contaminate the soul of this country, because we have yet to face the truth of what has happened in the past, and we have yet faced the truth that leads to justice to resolve the issues today so we can have a better future. Look, I got to take another quick pause. When we come back, let's switch gears. Let's talk about education. Let's talk about teachers. Let's bring our Sister Kimberly Morrow back into the conversation. And of course, I want to hear from you. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. As we talk about Reverend Bernice King's warning that humanity is at the brink, I want to bring in another part of the conversation, which is the state of our education here in this country. And I'm joined once again by my sister, Kimberly Morrow. And I'm also joined now by my sister, Claudine Gay, who is a college admissions advisor as well as a political strategist. And hear from both of them who have been in the education space is absolutely dynamic. And we are in a very, very serious crisis. So first, peace to you. Good afternoon, Corinna. Good to see you as always coming onto the show. Happy Friday. You always changing up your hairstyle. So
this is still wash and go. It's a fresh wash and go.
It's a fresh wash and glow. Oh, you said wash and go, not well. Oh, okay.
Yeah, wash and go.
Wash and go, not wash and glow. Okay, all right, cool. Let's talk about this as we're talking about humanity and Reverend Bernice King's warning. I wanted to kick off the show in that space. When we look at the state of education, there's a crisis, Kimberly, in education where now they're saying that there are, quote unquote, no more teachers, that the industry itself is at a very, very critical point of either keeping the folks that are already in the classroom and recruiting new people to come into the classroom. Let me share with our crew what this latest report from Forbes had to say. Take a look at this, folks. It says, according to Forbes magazine, that the problem is not just current teachers exiting the field, it's that there are fewer people entering the profession to replace them. Caring teachers are now unlikely to encourage young people to enter a profession that is as challenging as teaching has become, says Jay Schroeder, a veteran teacher and author of Teach from Your Best Self. He also said, and it's not only teachers who are discouraging the young people they care about from becoming teachers. According to a 2022 nationally representative survey, they found that fewer than 1 in 5 Americans would encourage a young person to become a K-12 teacher. Dang. Kimberly, what is going on in the educational field? What's going on with the teaching profession?
And you know what the crazy thing is? I was discouraged as well. People were like, why would you want to be a teacher? They don't make any money. It was very discouraging, but I persevered because that's all I wanted to do growing up. But now the way it's so difficult for teachers, I would be hard pressed to encourage people to go into this profession. Here's the deal. When we're in our programs, when they're teaching us how to become teachers, it's very, how can I say, I'll come back to that. But what we learn in our programs is very different from what we experience when we actually get out in the field. So they don't tell us about the district requirements. They don't tell us about all of the rough things that we're going to experience. They don't tell us that all of those things that they're teaching us how to be caring and do all of these extra things for our students. They don't tell us that when we actually get into a school that is actually looked down upon. So it's very difficult making that. Go ahead.
Well, so I know I'm wondering, Kimberly, like, why is that? Like, why aren't teachers, or why aren't folks who come into schools who want to learn how to, do the great work of being in the classroom, why aren't those other things being told? Is it because you want to insulate? And I'm not saying you specifically, but is it to make sure that people don't run out of the training and say, oh, hell no, I ain't doing this? Like, why isn't that part of the reality told? Because that's a huge culture shock. Here you are being taught that you're going to go in and open up a young person's mind and get them to think new ideas and all of these things. And then you come in and and the district tells you, okay, welcome, you got your teacher certificate. It's like the NBA or the NFL draft. The brightest people to come out of the teaching schools go to the worst performing schools. And so why isn't that part of the conversation not being talked about among those who are coming out of schools, who want to be teachers?
I don't even know that the people that are in the programs that are delivering this information are fully aware of what's actually going on in the schools, if that makes sense. So I believe they themselves are insulated in their teaching from this loftier goal. And so I'm thinking about the people that I was learning from. I don't necessarily know that they were in these difficult situations, or how many years ago it was that they were actually in the classroom and now they're teaching about being in the classroom. So there's definitely some sort of disconnect with the people who are preparing teachers to go out into the classrooms and what the actual reality of the situation is once they get there. I remember I was floored. I was like, oh my God, these people think like this? This is not what I was prepared to do. So yeah, it was a shock. It was actually a shock.
Corinna, I could only imagine being a shock, because you're going into a system, you're bushy-eyed and bright, you got, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, as they say. And you want to change the world, you want to do something for your people, for your community. And then you're faced with the ugly reality of school politics. You're faced with the ugly reality of district bias. You're faced with the ugly reality of low resources and coming out your pocket to get certain things and advocating for something that you thought was just going to be common sense. And you got to navigate through all of that. So when we're looking at this teacher situation, how do we equip the next generation of or the next cadre of teachers to get them prepared?
I mean, all of what you just said, right? It is a very ugly reality, lack of resources. I myself have spent out of my own pocket for my students. School politics, oh my gosh, it is so political. And I feel like that's one of the first lessons I learned, walking into a school building in like my first year, right? And also too, everyone's not necessarily an education major. I was in an education major. You have a lot of career changers, and depending on what you have in, you can certify and teach, right? In that specific curriculum or subject area. But yeah, this is not surprising that we don't have any more teachers. I always say teachers are the unsung heroes, right? They're overworked and underpaid. I hope that in the height of the pandemic, when schools were closed, parents have a new appreciation now and will never question again why teachers have summer off. Like, we need that mental break. But yeah, there's a lack of teachers. I think there's a lot of negative connotations too, especially even with the kids in school, because they're witnessing that and they're seeing how you work and they're kind of like, I don't know if I want to do that. So, what's happening in the school environment to cultivate a desire for them to say, you know what, I want to do that. But then at the same time, it truly is a calling.
I agree.
Who, in my opinion, don't even need to be teachers, but it's kind of like a quick, easy segue to like maybe substitute, you get certified, you teach. Is just a means to an end for some folks, and they don't really have that passion. And I will say, especially in the past year or two, where we see all these egregious laws and legislation, here in Florida, my home state, for example, who would be motivated to actually want to step into that environment? There's just so many things at stake. You don't know.
That's a great question.
You know, you're just constantly under a microscope, especially now as far as curriculum is concerned. And it's just unfortunate because we're seeing more of the, you know, the bad per se to teaching as opposed to the good. And we have to start magnifying the good, right? That we need teachers. And you know what, I always tell students at the end of the day too, everything starts with education. Even if you go to pharmacy school, guess what? A pharmacist is teaching you how to be a pharmacist. Like your teacher is someone, they were a practitioner in that.
You talking about, and Corinna, you talking about real pharmaceuticals, not
yeah, of course.
Not street pharmaceuticals.
Real pharmaceuticals. Okay, all right, real pharmaceuticals. Let me backtrack and use another example. Lawyer, doctor, lawyer. A doctor, you gotta be a doctor, but you know what I'm getting at. But yeah, it's just unfortunate because, and then too, a lot of times when students think of being a teacher, they only think of in that setting that they're at, right, in schools. But you do have some exceptions. One of my students, she's actually a teacher and she saw the day-to-day, you know, what was happening with us in the school. And I was very surprised, you know, when she told me that she was going to step into that profession, but she did. But yeah, there's just so much, you know, if you were to look at a list like the good and bad, the bad is just being magnified right now. And in every workplace, there's something, right? But I think that's why it's important to kind of get a feel and shadow and figure out, well, how do we actually change school culture and you know, push back against that bias that you receive in the district? And that's something else that's very influential too, because more often than not, sometimes you have people at the district level who've never even been in the classroom, and they're getting
and I want to stop you right there, and that is the problem.
Yeah, if you don't know how to manage a classroom, like it's literally a science to manage kids. And if you don't get that,
I don't get it. I see, I know it. And I got to take a quick pause. But one of the things that I think that if you are going to be the superintendent or CEO or whatever the big name is of any school district, the first requirement is you should have at least 10 years in the classroom.
I agree. And some of them have just the bare minimum. You need
and I see it. I'm not seeing it. And I hear stories across this country, Kim and Corinna, it's like, if you're not in the classroom, how, and I think a lot of these districts hire people or they elevate people based upon their business acumen. And if we're treating education like a business, right, then that's a different mentality of teaching to empower versus teaching to earn money. Two different goals, right? You're teaching to a test because the test over, you know, if you teach to a certain number of students, you get a certain number of funding. That's the old school. That's the old school model. If we're talking about teaching to empower, that's a different model. Now, here's the other thing. We got to take a quick pause now. But I want us to think about, because Big Brother Willie Frazier brought this point up. And who else? Arlene Starks brought this point up, saying what part of the current issues, banned books, removal of ethnic-based material, this is from Arlene, based material play a part of this? Big Brother Willie said, could the lack of people entering the teaching field be attributed to legislation against the truth and being able to empathize with the kids' orientation? We're talking about culture, we're talking about history, and I want to get from you first, Kimberly, when we come back from the break, how that plays into this epic crisis that we are embarked upon. Folks, stay with us. The conversation continues about the lack of teachers, and it doesn't seem to be any light at the end of this tunnel. We want you to join us in the conversation right now. Post your comments on Roland Martin's YouTube page or Roland Martin Facebook page, and let's continue the discussion on the other side right here on the Culture or the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together, so let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. Hey, Black, I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation, especially as we kick off the second half of the show, as we talk about the epic crisis that the United States of America is facing, as we're seeing that there is a teacher shortage. Now, some of us may be aware that there are certainly some challenges within the industry, within the profession of teaching, but now is becoming of grave concern by many folks within the industry that we're not just seeing people coming in, but we're not even seeing folks getting excited, motivated. Teachers aren't talking about being teachers to other people to make them excited about being teachers. This is a big problem, and this is something that that folks are looking at and wondering, where is the solution? What is going to be the light at the end of the tunnel? I've been checking in with my sisters, Corinne and Denise, college admissions advisor. She's also an educator, been in the classroom. Well, I've been checking in with my sister, Kimberly Morrow, who is an administrator, who also is a principal. She's an administrator. She's been in all of those conversations and still walked out angry as hell. So I get it. I appreciate it.
They make us angry.
I'm just keeping it real. I'm keeping it real. And I'm on the outskirts. Yeah. I hear it. I'm on the outskirts of the conversations. And, you know, even from East Coast to West Coast and all of those things, I'm seeing some real problems. But I want to get back to what Culture Crew member Arlene Starks and Culture Crew member Big Brother Willie Frazier put out there, as they both have pretty much said, how does this situation of banned books, how does the situation of the culture wars about what's being taught, Black history, how much does this play into this narrative that is preventing folks from wanting to become teachers? Kimberly, I want to get your take on that first.
I would say that it plays a small part, but the bottom line is teachers don't feel valued. don't feel appreciated, and then you constantly are adding more and more and more responsibilities with very little compensation, very little resources once you do it. And I want to go back to, I'm gonna finish that thought, but Farajii, I gotta go back to one thing you and Sister Corinna were saying, that superintendents and administrators need to have more experience in the classroom. They need to be in the classroom longer. It doesn't matter how long you're in the classroom if you're not good in the classroom when you're there.
That's true.
And that was
Come on, wait a minute, hold on, Kimberly. You can't just skirt over that.
Look.
So wait a minute. Let me ask you. I mean, let's keep it real, right? We're gonna keep it real. So how? Because I've come across, I know a lot of teachers. Right? How do you determine? How do you determine if that teacher is as dope as they say they are? How does that determine? Because I know y'all have y'all metrics within the internal metrics. I know y'all have like performance reviews and all of those things. But I'm saying for those of us on the outside of that institution, right? How do you know if your child's teacher is a high, a very professional, high class teacher that's bringing a lot to the table, and not only to bring it to the table, they can show you how to make sure that they can teach your child. How do you know that, Kendall?
This one of the biggest litmus tests is, what is the relationship with your child and that teacher? If your child is coming home and talking about, oh, this is, we learned this in class, we learned that in class. But if your child is only coming home and telling you, oh, I like the teacher, or why do you like the teacher? Oh, because we get free time, or we get to watch this movie.
Ooh.
Or just because a student likes a teacher doesn't necessarily make that teacher a good teacher. I have students all the time tell me, oh, we love Miss So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so. Well, why? Because we get to watch movies in that class, or they, we don't have to do anything in that class.
Hey, Kimberly, hold on. You talking about a kid that, I'm just saying, I can only imagine. Here you are, now, Kimberly's been a principal, y'all. Y'all got to understand, she's been a principal. So if a child comes up to her, Miss Kimberly, man, Mr. Brown, man, he just let us watch movies all day long.
That's the problem.
Mr. Brown about to have somebody, he about to be called into the principal's office. Wait a minute, hold on, Mr. Brown, hold up. What's going on? First thing, that's not our curriculum, sir. So that's crazy. So the child is the litmus test then. Is that what I'm hearing from you, Kimberly?
Yes, listen to what the child is telling you. Like, you really have to listen to them. Look at the work that they are bringing home for you to see. My son brought home work once, and he had an A on it. It was like 100. I was like, oh, this is wonderful. I started looking through the work. That boy didn't answer one question. Not didn't answer one question correctly. He just rewrote the sentence. It was like, what was the cause of the Civil War? The cause of the Civil War was what? And he got 100 on it? Yes. Now, keep in mind, my son was.
Do y'all get participation points in the classroom now too?
So let me just say this. My son was on an IEP. He got accommodations. And I guess the teacher felt that was an appropriate accommodation, is that he just kind of tried to answer. But I was like, no, that's not an accommodation. He needs to be required to answer the question. So there are teachers who may spend years in the classroom, and I don't want them leading me. I would be
greatly concerned. I would be greatly concerned about that.
Mm-hmm.
I would be greatly concerned. But so we say the children, but if we're talking about like a CEO or superintendent, what litmus test does the community, does the parents, the stakeholders have to use to determine if somebody is going to either be a good fit for that role, or to be used to determine if somebody's qualified for that role? What's the litmus test for those on the outside?
That's a bit harder, because what happens is they're going to give you, for parents, and for the community, they're going to give you what you want to see. They're going to show you exactly they're going to play this role, because just what Sister Corinna said, what I learned too was being in education was a political arena. So they've mastered the art of going to meetings and schmoozing and really holding themselves out to be, leaders in the community. That's why those are the people, when they were in the classroom, they should not have been promoted to begin with. Because I went to school with a lot of teachers who, in my program, their goal was to be a principal. And they would say, I'm just going to do this for 5 years. And then, because that's the minimum time you have to be in the classroom, I'm going to do this for 5 years, and then I'm going to become a principal. So some people are not going into the profession to be a teacher. They're going into the profession to be a principal. And I personally don't like that. I get it. I would get it. Corinna, talk to me. What's your take on
that? I mean, we said a mouthful, right?
Right, right.
I will say this too. I think this is where parents are so essential, right? Where you need to be getting involved in your parent-teacher association or whatever it is that your parent-student council, whatever it is at your school. Parents need to connect so that they're having these conversations. Hey, what is your child saying about Mr. or Miss so-and-so? What's happening in the classroom? Is there a common thread there that you see each child is getting the feedback? What accessibility do they have to the teacher outside of classroom time, right? Can they meet with the teacher after school, or do they have break times where, they can go and ask questions? Where's the commonality in that? And I think something too, because a lot of these districts, unfortunately, are so focused on the metrics, right? Everything is just a number. But how often times are we actually including like student feedback, parents and their feedback, right? Their accessibility to get in touch with the teacher to kind of review their child's progress. I think all of that is interconnected, but more often than not, we're just measuring the numbers, just basing even a teacher's success on how well the student is performing on an exam, right? Teaching to that test. So I think there are some loopholes there that we also need to avoid, but also to Kimberly's point, yes, I think we need to be very clear and specific. While we're recommending at least, let's just say 10 years of classroom experience, 10 years of classroom experience, the recommendation, given that you've had excellent observations and we have seen your growth and there's feedback from your school community that they see that you are a value and an asset and you actually know this curriculum and you can implement it to students where they understand and they can impart it, effortlessly. I think that definitely matters. But yeah, it's just that there are so many people, like Kimberly also mentioned, who just say, you know what, I just need to knock out this 5 years because I'm trying to get that AP position. And they're just looking at it as a means to an end and not really to actually just grow professionally and actually and encourage students and teach students and making sure that they're prepared to have the life skills and a quality education when they leave the school system. So it's really unfortunate. And then I think it just, the things that are going on right now, it's like there was already an open sore, right? With teachers being burnt out, underpaid, overworked. And now with some of the other things that are happening legislatively, that kind of like pour salt into the wound per se.
Absolutely.
It just makes it a little bit worse than it was before. So yeah, it's real unfortunate. And we really got to turn this narrative around because there are a lot of good things, but unfortunately the bad is just what's being magnified right now. And we need to start sharing some more of the victories and the successes. And there are other ways to get things, as a college counselor, when I would have my annual college fairs, it was hard to get money out of my administration, no matter how early I asked. So I had to get creative. I put pen to paper. Okay, I'm going to write Target and Publix, and I'm like, this is for the kids. I need some money. And I got it. Like you got to get creative. It's unfortunate. We shouldn't have to always do that. They should continue to support and say, okay, they got money for what they want when they want it, but not for certain things that benefit the kids. So these are the things that we struggle with, unfortunately. But I think collectively, if we organize, we can kind of push back and combat some of these things. We need more Black men.
Oh, I know. We like 2% of the teaching of teachers nationwide, black male teachers. 2%. 2%.
Yeah.
Damn.
And we need more seasoned teachers that students can see as role models. You know, a lot of times now you see a lot of college kids, and this is not to disparage them, they're like maybe 1 or 2 years older, you know, in a classroom with some high school seniors, you know, and not anyone who is, you know, who has had life experience, who can be a role model, a mentor to them, to see, you know, what they could possibly be. And I think that's a big gap that we have. And we might just see a little bit more of that now, given the shortage. It's an opportunity to get a job. Schools are going to be willing to hire more quickly, especially getting in as substitutes. Some folks are just substitutes because the district figures like, oh, you know, that we don't have to pay as much, you know, so there are just all kind of loopholes, unfortunately, that are fueling this mess.
We can't. And here's and I couldn't agree with you more there, Corinna. Linda McSwain checked in from the Facebook Culture Crew. She said, the student outcome beyond the classroom, lifetime skills and achievements, effort times know-how equals results. What you know versus what you do versus how you do it. This is all, and Linda, I agree with you wholeheartedly, because I think this is all of the complexities of critical thinking and understanding how you move and how you're moving in the world. But a lot of folks, and I'm telling you, this stuff is not happening. We know it's not happening. But the thing that I see that we're probably missing, we can't change the district. We can't deal with all the politics unless you have a Kimberly Morrow who's going to go and advocate, who's been on the front lines. You got a Corinna Denise who's going to advocate. But from the community side, we could change the culture and the conversation around education.
Well, we could change some of that district who sits on that school board.
Thank you, Corinna. Thank you, Corinna. I was just going to say.
We can change that.
Right,
okay?
Right.
And we're not showing up for those things, right? See, I'm just like a broken record. I'm always talking about voting. If you care about what's happening in the school, there are people on that board who are making decisions, some of them who have never had that classroom experience.
Yep, absolutely.
And so here we are.
And here we are. And this is the beginning. This is, again, folks, this is just the beginning of 2024. We're only in the 5th day of the new year. Some things have to be different. Some things have to be changed. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue to talk about education. But let's continue to talk about how the Claudine Gay, the former president of Harvard University, how her ouster and resignation has continuing to open up the discussions around race, higher education, and so much more. She penned an op-ed for the New York Times. I'm going to share with you just some of the things that she shared in the New York Times, and we're going to talk about it with Corinna. Also, we're going to talk about what's happening in New York City as they have instituted or passed a new law requiring cosmetologists to get texture hair education so they understand and know how to handle the hair, the multifaceted, the many strands, the multi-strand hair of Black folks. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And did you know that January 6th is tomorrow? Maybe we could throw it in. I'm asking the question, do we need to have like a federal holiday, a national day of remembrance? And there's a reason why I'm saying this. So let's continue to have that conversation. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, We're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. Hey, Black, I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for joining us and being a part of the conversation. Now, the discussion continues as we are in the space of the fallout of the resignation and the ouster of former Harvard University President Claudine Gay. Now, she had officially resigned on Tuesday, but it still seems to be a very, very sensitive and sore spot for a lot of people as the intersection of race and higher education is brought to the forefront with this particular situation. And we wanted to continue the conversation because just the day after she resigned, she wrote an op-ed for the New York Times where she talked about what happened in her own words that led her up to that point of deciding to resign from the position. Now, she only served in the term of being Harvard University's president for 6 months, the shortest term and tenure in the university's 388-year history. Wow. Let me bring back my sister, Corinna Denise, joining us once again as we have this part of the conversation. We just got finished talking, Corinna, and I got my sister, Kimberly Morrow, as well. So, ladies, we just finished talking about education, and then this situation is right in. I mean, we kick off the new year with a Black woman having to walk away from one of the, if not one of the most prestigious schools in the country and possibly across the globe, respectfully. So let's talk a little bit about this. One of the big things that she did acknowledge in her op-ed, and let's post the first quote there, please, Lise. Thank you so much. She said, "Yes, I made mistakes." This is what she wrote in her article, her first public comment since stepping down as the shortest serving president in Harvard's history. In my initial response to the atrocities of October 7th, I should have stated more forcefully what all people of good conscience know. Hamas is a terrorist organization that seeks to eradicate the Jewish state, she added. That's the first part. So she admits to this, that she made a mistake. But there seems to be no grace for this system in making the mistake. Now, I'm sure we will never hear what actually happened between that time when the university, the Harvard Corporation, decided to keep her on, right? When they made that, I think, Corinna, you and I, we talked about this, when they decided to keep her on, and then a couple of days later, only for her to resign. Don't know what happened, what conversations took place during that period of time. But she admits, I made a mistake. Now, when she had that infamous hearing, I'm going to pull this up really quickly here, folks. And this is the Harvard Crimson. Harvard Crimson did, that is the school's newspaper, the crimson.com. When she had that committee hearing, that widely condemned testimony before the House Education and Workforce Committee, she said at the committee hearing, Representative Elise Stefanik, the Republican out of New York, asked whether calling for the genocide of Jewish people would violate Harvard's code of conduct. She responded that it would be context dependent. Now, a couple of days after the hearing, she apologized, according to the Harvard Crimson newspaper. She apologized for her testimony, but her op-ed on that ran on Wednesday was her most candid reflection on this hearing, and she called Representative Stefanik's line of questioning a well-laid trap. Kimberly, what are we seeing here? This Black woman went through all of this pain 6 months in. She gets to a hearing. I mean, again, and I posed this question yesterday. Wednesday, if not January 6th, but if October 7th did not happen, would we have seen the ouster of this Black woman from Harvard? And so I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if that would have been the case. But she apologized. And I think that's probably why the Harvard Corporation decided, okay, we're going to keep her. You know what I mean? Because she admitted to the school, hey, this is my fault, y'all. You know what I mean? I should have handled that line of questioning. But then she also recognized that Stefanik was kind of coming for her neck as well. What's your take on this, Kimberly?
So it is even deeper than that. It's not even the board that had an issue with her. It's one of their largest conservative donors who called for her ouster. And now he's calling for the board to be dismissed as well. So
who is that? You're talking about Mr. Bill Ackman. Is that who we're talking about?
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. So, he who holds the purse strings, right? Mm-hmm. So he's one of their largest conservative donors. Harvard is a bastion of liberality. When I went there, I was like, oh my God, I thought I was liberal, but I quickly realized I was not as liberal as I thought I was. I was actually pretty conservative. So they know who they're hiring, they know who they're getting. And the fact that now they're coming after this woman, it's because they have this conservative donor and they have other conservative donors. And now they're playing this whole game. So if it wasn't this, it was probably going to be, oh, she's for critical race theory. It was going to be something because, and we know this because one of the first things he referenced was she was a diversity hire. So
right.
Diminishing her hiring, calling a diversity hiring. And so we already know where the conservatives stand with regards to diversity and inclusion right now.
And let's put it out there too, Corinna and Kimberly. Bill Ackman, who is a billionaire conservative donor, he's a hedge fund manager, and he's, of course, like you say, Kimberly, prominent Harvard donor. He led the charge against removing Claudine Gay.
Yes, he did.
She resigned on Tuesday. She penned this op-ed on Wednesday. But check it out. Guess what happened then? God don't like no ugly. Mm. His own wife, Neri Oxman, his own wife, Bill Ackman's own wife, Neri Oxman, has now been found guilty of plagiarizing some passages in her academic work when she was at MIT.
Well. So how is Bill going to handle that? How's Bill gonna? I'm sorry. I'm just so anxious to jump in here.
Let me just tell y'all. Wait, let me just say this. This is how you know we're in a very, very critical time.
Mm-hmm.
When the manifestation of defects is made known at a faster rate. So you could talk about one person yesterday, and then all your stuff comes out the next day. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of time that lets you know, that gives you a sense of the speed and really more importantly, the how justice is moving in this time frame that Reverend Bernice King is talking about. Justice ain't going to take a long time. It's going to roll down, and it's going to roll down with a lot of power. You cannot do one thing and then expect, oh, nobody's going to catch me from the dirt. And then boom, here's the light being exposed on your own wife. Your own wife. The same, I mean, this is crazy. The same reason you advocate for this black woman to get ousted, your wife. Now, she didn't even, as far as Harvard concerned, they said, Corinna and Kimberly, that really Claudine Gay didn't even plagiarize. She violated a couple of quotes, but they would not consider it to be plagiarism. His own wife plagiarized.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, Corinna, talk to me. What's your take?
Well, I first just want to start with, it's so ironic that we're here. I remember the very first time you invited me on the show, this was December 2022, and we were talking about her upcoming appointment and how this was a time to celebrate this, how would everyone feel about it? And what's happening with Dr. Claudine Gay right now, I'm not surprised, but it just wasn't even in my mind at the time that this, I remember specifically saying, we got to look and see what she's about to step into. I would have never imagined it would have been this, although I'm not surprised, right? But it feels like, someone didn't want her there and they just had to find a reason. And we'll just say that I guess she's admitting that, she, for lack of a better word right now, kind of fumbled in that congressional hearing. So they seized the opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And I honestly think the whole plagiarism thing is a bunch of BS. And you know what? I wish someone would raise the point. Like, where's the accountability on Harvard, who's supposed to be the premier college of all colleges? Who in the hell conferred her degree? Right. You conferred this woman's degree, but she so-called plagiarized. You have a whole dissertation chair and committee. So you all just went past that. Y'all didn't notice that she supposedly, allegedly plagiarized anything. Where's their accountability? How did you make that slip? All the focus is on her. And I'm really happy that she put out this op-ed I really wanted to hear in her own words and her own voice. And, I think, and I could be wrong, but I think that she was really pressured to resign and she had to make a decision and just have a come to Jesus. Like, she quotes and she says, I was called the N-word more than I care to count. We can only imagine the threats. Do I actually want to stay on and have them fire me? The threats behind the scenes where she had to make a decision, let me protect myself, my family. And also you can see she really cares about the university, the students there. And, unfortunately, it's like she's loyal to a fault. Still in so many ways, and how she's framing things to preserve, the institution. And it's just so unfortunate. But this is a warning to all of us, like Black folks. You be moving up in these positions, and this has to go back to that same Christopher Rufo who got into the heads and the feelings of all of those pissed off white parents who were mad as hell that the schools closed down in the height of 2020 when we're in the midst of a once in a lifetime pandemic, okay? And he got in their heads and got in their feelings and was like, oh, your child is learning this in school. And now all of a sudden they're more invested in education now more than ever. Where the hell were you before? Back to the teacher conversation when we're struggling, trying to make a means to an end to teach your kids. Now you care about the thing. Where were you before? And so they're going after education on every single level, from pre-K all the way up to higher ed. And basically, this is a warning, Black people, like, no matter what, we've done everything right, supposedly right, but they don't want us in these positions. And she speaks to that. in this New York Times article. And it's unfortunate, and I hope it magnifies what's happening. We see what's happening in 2024. Again, I'm going to tie it back to the voting piece. I'm going to tie it back to elections. I'm going to tie it back to everything that's happening in this country right now. And we need to be paying attention because she is just one of who's on that next list.
And let me just say this. We're going to take a quick pause, but she said in her op-ed, she conceded that she made some mistakes or errors in her academic citations by failing to properly attribute some of her resources. She said, my critics found instances in my academic writings where some material duplicated off other scholars' language without proper attribution. She has recently requested corrections to her dissertation in 2 articles, a move she said was in line with how other similar cases involving faculty were resolved at Harvard. She pushed back against the quote unquote, as she calls it, obsessive scrutiny of her work, writing that she has never claimed credit for the research of others. Moreover, the citation error should not obscure a fundamental truth. I proudly stand by my work and its impact on the field. Now, we're going to take a quick pause when we come forward. I want to kind of add to what you're bringing up, Corinna, talking about our pursuit to be in these spaces. We break our necks, folks. And I'm talking to Black folks. We break our necks. We cause ourselves mental anguish to be in these positions and into these spaces only to be told, you're not enough. You're not enough. And we got to talk about that. We can't go to 2024 and think that that's okay. We got to talk about it. Stay with us, folks. The conversation continues on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. Hey, Black, I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sisters, Corinna Denise, college admissions advisor, as well as Kimberly Morrow, who is a administrator, and both are educators, but Kimberly is also an administrator. She's an author, she's a speaker. And we've been talking about the ongoing fallout of the first Black woman president of Harvard University, Ms. Claudine Gay, and how she has officially spoken her own words through an op-ed that was posted within the New York Times, talking about what has happened in this moment that led to her resignation on Tuesday of this week. But I want to kind of speak to the point that you made, Corinna, as we were going to break, talking about that President Gay said that she experienced a lot of racism, a lot of threatening emails, hate mail. She was called the N-word numerous times. She said, I was called the N-word more times than I can count. And it speaks to this, and I truly, truly hope that in 2024, that we all have a collective awakening around this. That regardless to how much you put in, how far you go, how much time you put in, how much schooling you sit in for, how hard you work, it's like Jay-Z's The Story of OJ. It's like you still the N-word. That regardless that you can achieve so much greatness, you can accomplish so much, you could become the first Black woman president of a major educational institution like Harvard University and still be called the N-word. You can achieve so much, you can become the first Black president of the United States of America and still be called the N-word. And so for me, it's how there has to be a point in Black America where we say, when is enough enough? When is enough enough? Are we going to continue to teach our children that they must achieve, that they must break their necks, that they must sacrifice themselves to accommodate and assimilate into a system and try to make themselves acceptable to some of white America, not all of white America, but to some of white America, to the point that they lose a sense of self only to get to that place, only to get into those spaces to be called an N-word again. And some white people would say, well, why are y'all upset? When there are some white Americans who can't even take a little disruption in their comfort and they want to go and do all types of madness. It's no surprise. I'm going to say it like this. And given all that we have gone through, the profile for mass shooters in this country is the white male. The profile of the domestic terrorist, according to the FBI, is a white male. They can't handle certain disruptions in their comfort for a couple of years. When Obama got into office, I remember people like, oh my God, so America is gone. What is going to happen? Boom, boom, boom. Imagine you living your whole life like that. As Black people, we come out of the womb, and by the time we get to 30, 40 years, we have been conditioned to stay quiet, the condition to take on the microaggressions in the workplace, conditioned to go through all of the conditions to change ourselves and go through this mental anguish to be acceptable. But we ain't the mass shooters. We aren't the domestic terrorists. And this ain't racism. I'm talking about humanism. This is about the human experience. Imagine going through that. And I'm saying this to all of our white viewers who support Black Star Network and the work that we do. But imagine that's the burden that you got to carry as a Black person each and every day, not just for a couple of years, a decade. That's your life. And only to get to a certain point to still be diminished, to be saying you could be the president of one of our top performing universities. But you know what? In my eyes, you still an N-word. You still a Black B.
How they see us, right? She wasn't supposed to be there in the first place.
Now, I'm gonna say this. I think she was supposed to be there.
Well,
She was supposed to be there.
I agree, but what I'm saying from their perspective, Farajii, the people who ousted her, they have the perspective of she shouldn't have been there in the first place, right? I remember even former First Lady Michelle Obama talking on her podcast about how when she was First Lady and in her first term, she went into an ice cream parlor in the line with her girls. Secret Service was around, and the white folks just don't see her. Stepped right in front of her. She was First Lady at the time, and I'm just using that as one of many examples. So I say all that to say, yeah, we certainly know she deserved to be there. It was very annoying to me to see different things in mainstream media, where they're commenting saying like she was just a diversity hire. That is so insulting. No, she was there because of everything that she achieved, right? She was well qualified for the position, but no, they're not going to say that. It's going to be framed as, oh, this was just a DEI thing. We know how they feel about DEI. They hate it. They don't want to see it. They want to upend it. Hence why we're seeing everything that's happening now with these ridiculous laws going on all over this country, okay? But the thing is, they did not want her there. And in their mind, they were like, she shouldn't have been here. So now we're going to do whatever we have to do, make up whatever we have to make up. And like Kimberly said, who holds the powers of the purse, right? Because the money, love of money is the root of all evil. And that's what's, wielding this thing all together. It goes all back to the money. They were like, we don't want her there, get her out. And now we see what has happened, right?
Well, and I agree with that. And I agree with that. And check out with Cindy D. Cindy, you posted this on the chat, and I appreciate you for posting. You said we have to be in these spaces, Farajii. Affirmative action, the pursuit of excellence, and academic affliction can't be for naught. We can't open doors without our keys and our foot. Here's my thing. Do we really have to be in these spaces, Kimberly? Do we really have to be in these spaces? Because if we have lessons, and Corinna said this, we have examples set before us. This is 2024 now. We have examples. We have had a Black president, and we've had a Black person in Harvard, right? We have Black people that are breaking barriers and women going through glass ceilings and all of that stuff, right? And guess the treatment is still the same, that they don't want it. So I'm wondering, I get what Cindy is saying, affirmative action, the pursuit of excellence, and academic affliction, and all of those things. But do we have to be there? Because at some point, like, what's the point? And how do you explain this to the next generation? Y'all keep trying to be in the spaces where they don't want you, because what do you say after that?
Well, unfortunately, we keep trying to be in the spaces where they don't want us, because in the spaces where we could go, we don't necessarily always have accessibility there either, Farajii. It's an unfortunate reality. And I'm going to speak from the college advisor's point of view right now, right? Harvard, being the school that it is, it's one of many of those top tier selective admission schools who will meet 100% of a student's financial need. That's just the reality. I can't necessarily send them to the HBCU, although they want to go there, because it's not even just about loans. Sometimes they don't even meet their financial need in its entirety, right? And it's just unfortunate. And why is that?
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, Corinna, and I want to get Kimberly's take on this. It's not just about education. This wasn't just about education. Claudine Gay she's been a part of the staff and the personnel at Harvard for years. You know what I'm saying? She went to Harvard. Like, this is her home, right? This is her home. So this is not about education. If you can't talk, if you put shine a spotlight on her educational work, how the hell you want to say she plagiarized, but she didn't? Nobody at that time caught that? Because that's not about education. Hold on. Let me, Kimberly, what's your take? Let's get what you got to say.
All right, so I'm gonna have to agree with the person in the chat to a point. So here's why we do need to be in those spaces, because I was in that space for a number of years. And what I will say is that I know that I impacted lives, not just the lives of Black and brown children, but white children, Asian children as well. And I know that because they told me. I constantly get feedback from them. I had a lot of white parents who loved that I was there. even though things did not turn out the way I would have liked to have had it turn out. I was, it caused me a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of etc. But when I look back on it, do I regret being there? No, because I did add value to that institution, and I did bring something to those students that they would not have otherwise had brought to them. When I first started there was a teacher that did college fairs. He did not include Black colleges. And when I went to him to talk to him about it, he said that was because he had gone to UCLA. He wasn't familiar. So I started that trend. And there's just so much value that we add. And yes, a lot of times it doesn't end well for us, but to say that we should just not be in that space altogether, I have to push back on that, because I know that we add value. I know we do.
Right.
And if we're seeing this happen on the highest level, very quickly, Corinna, I'm gonna give you like 30 seconds for this. If we're seeing this at the highest level, that even though some of us say, all right, we add value, as Kimberly said, add value to the spaces. And even you said this, Corinna, you just posted in the chat. You said we need to be in those spaces and those leadership capacities to support those students who look like us, right? But how do you do that? Because you can't insulate yourself from the pushback of being in those spaces, right? So if you have a Bill Ackman in other industries who are pulling the strings, who has that level of power and influence and whose voice reigns supreme in some way, yeah, as much as we should be in those spaces, you still have an even more dominant force that's pushing them out of this spaces. So when do we say, you know what, y'all can have this, y'all can have this, and we're going somewhere else with our business. We're going to go somewhere else looking for educational advancement. We're going somewhere else to take our money. Like, what are we fighting for the future? Because Harvard Black students at Harvard, I'm just using Harvard as an example, it's less than 10%. It's less than 10%. Should we start the process of asking Black students and brown students from Harvard, hey, y'all seen what happened to Claudine Gay? Y'all seen that even though we get to this certain level, they're still we steal the N-word. Go ahead, Corinna, 30 seconds.
Do we have space for them to offer them an alternative? And that is where the convolution begins, right? Because it's not a matter of that they don't want to go. It's just, how am I going to get there? How am I going to pay for it? Everyone can't be, Representative Justice Jones, who came from California and was able to go to Fisk University in Tennessee. That's right. Everyone doesn't have that opportunity for a plethora of reasons. So until we decide, that's going to take some organization on a massive level to organize, to figure out what is an alternative for students. I think, again, we also miss a lot of the students who are at these PWIs, right? Especially our Black students. They're not, in my view, not getting the amount of support or the focus on that they need just as much as our HBCU students. And unfortunately, our predominantly white institutions are more accessible, right? As far as just in number.
I agree.
Than the HBCUs. I would like to see that change. But it's going to take
maybe we should go to and I know I got to take a break, but maybe we should go to predominantly white institutions that are more progressive in their thinking, who are open. And I'm not saying, because I know everybody's not going to go to HBCU. I remember you posted that in the chat a couple of days ago when this whole thing went down. You were like, HBCUs may not always be able to meet the needs and the interests of Black students nationwide, and that's true. I went to a PWI, right? So I wouldn't change my educational experience. I made the choice to go there. Nobody forced me to go to a PWI. I made the choice to go there. But I think at the end of the day, maybe we should look at other places. I'm just saying, if you're going to push out your first Black president, and the way that we saw went down with Harvard, then maybe we should rethink something. That's all I'm saying. Maybe we should really rethink something.
Considering the circumstances, that might be something to consider in this instance. But what that's actually going to look like, that's going to take a lot of thought, a lot of work, and strategy. It's not impossible,
Absolutely.
but how are we gonna make it happen? You know what I mean?
That's a great point. All right, got to take a final break. When we come back, let's talk about J6. It is it's happening tomorrow, and I'm asking a quick question: should we kind of quote unquote institutionalize and memorialize it as a holiday of some sort or some day of remembrance? I'll share with you my thoughts on that. Stay with us. It's the Culture on the Black Star Network.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. This is an opportunity for us to be able to speak to our issues. Y'all better understand something real quick. We ain't going nowhere. It is a continual battle that we see all across this country. Revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be streamed.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
He makes sure that our stories are told.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Welcome to the Culture here on the Black Star Network, joined by my sisters, Corinna Denise and Kimberly Morrow. And Kimberly is going to be joining us on Fridays. Kimberly's taking some time out, spent a little extra time with us today, which I truly, truly appreciate. Thank you, Kimberly. Absolutely. All right, my final conversation I want us to have is about January the 6th. We know that's officially tomorrow. My question is, should January the 6th be some sort of national day of remembrance? Should it be a federal holiday moving forward? Corinna, what's your take on that? Do you think that it's necessary for us to remember January 6th at this time? We on mute. Okay, there we go.
Oh, my bad, y'all. I was just y'all can't even hear me. I'm sorry about that. Okay, now.
Go ahead.
So you guys already know how I feel about this. Now a national holiday, I'm not so sure of, but I think it is something that we need to acknowledge every single year. We should never forget January 6, 2021, when white domestic terrorists breached the Capitol and tried to overturn the United States government. And why? Because black people voted in record numbers in the 2020 election. Okay, that's why they showed up. And if what they want to do now is just move forward, you hear a lot of that from the so-called candidates on the Republican side, whose names I'm not even going to mention. Oh, we just need to move forward. We just need to move forward because they want you to forget. They want you to forget that the danger that we still face, whether it's Donald Trump or any Republican candidate in the White House, in that legislative branch, we already see they have taken over our judicial system. We are in danger. We're already at a war. And January 6th was just some insight to what physical combat could look like. We should never, ever forget, because we still see things happening now, and they want us to forget. Project 2025, spearheaded by the Heritage Foundation, okay, a board of all white men. Okay, this is not a joke. And we can never forget that our government was almost overturned, and we need to understand why. And again, I'm going to say it again, because Black people, we voted in record numbers. Okay, they don't want the forward movement of this country. Okay, as Roland says, they are scared and they don't want to see the browning of America. So they need to maintain white minority rule. And until the global majority rises up and decides we're going to defeat you all, move you all the hell out of the way so that we can get the things on our agenda done, then we're going to continue to live with the damage. So we can never forget this day. It needs to be in the history books. There needs to be some sort of commemoration or acknowledgement every year. I believe the president is going to speak on it sometime tomorrow.
Yeah, he will be.
Yeah, so we cannot forget, just like we commemorate 9/11, you know, January 6, 2021, we should never forget that day. We have to understand why it happened and why it could possibly happen again, because they're gearing up for part 2. That was a trial run that they didn't have success with, but the next one, they will not fail.
There it is.
Of that.
Hey, Kimberly, what's your take on that? Should January 6th be a national day of remembrance?
Yes. Think about it. we did not do a National Day of Remembrance to commemorate the end of the Civil War or the beginning of the Civil War. They wanted to rush past that. Let's just get over that and look at where we ended up. So absolutely, just the same way we acknowledge 9/11, we need to acknowledge January 6th, because they actually tried to upend this democracy. They tried to end the peaceful transfer of power, and that had never been done in this country. So we should absolutely remember that day, just like we should have remembered the Civil War.
Absolutely, and I would agree. And my thinking is that from a Black America perspective, that it shows us how white rage, and as we play that commercial all the time, y'all, since I've even been on the show, that commercial about Brother Roland's book, white rage is alive and well in this country. And I'm not of the school of thought, Kimberly and Corinna, where we kind of gloss over these things, even the ugly parts of our history, the ugly parts of the things that this country has done. I think that if this country is going to try to get to a better space or a healing space, that you got to confront this. Like, if this playing out, I think it's absolutely insane, and it will cause a lot of mental anguish if we act as if what happened on January 6th is not significant for Black and white America, right? If we act as if, oh man, that's just, I have never seen anything of that nature ever. We have never seen anything like that. Not in our lifetime, right? It's like COVID and January 6th. These are like game-changing life remembering moments. So it's for us, I think, as a country, if we're serious about, if folks in this country, and I'm saying the Black folks, if those who say, well, y'all are serious about democracy, why should we forget this? Why should we not forget? Why should we forget the fact that you do have white males in this country who are so angry, who are so full of rage that they would literally climb the walls of the Capitol, busting up the windows, even attempting to hang political leaders because of their anger. And as Black folks in this country, we don't know what happened in Tulsa. We don't know what happened in Rosewood because we weren't around. But how do you think that white rage, that white anger is going to be directed if Trump or whoever else doesn't get their agenda across? How do you think that's going to? We got to be reminded of stuff, right? Like, and I'm going to take this word from President Biden talking about the fragility of democracy now. The fragility of democracy. And this puts us as Black America in a very, very unique position. We talked about it earlier this week. Do we uphold? Do we try to strengthen? Do you try to fortify the foundation of democracy? Or do you do the other? And make sure that, hey, we're not saving this country anymore. And I think that's the place that we find ourselves in this country. Did Black America save America? Or do we let America fall or continue to fall and continue to go downhill? Corinna, everybody's quiet. I feel you. I feel y'all.
We've always
it's a lot to think about. I got you.
We've always saved ourselves, in turn saving America, because let's just be clear, we built America, right? And unfortunately, if it just falls, I mean, in many ways, it needs to fracture, it needs to fall, so it could be built up and actually be true to what was on paper, as Dr. King has said, right? But, unfortunately, we will be the ones, more than any group, who will be living with the consequences in real time. And that's something to consider. So do we just want to feel right? Or are we going to save ourselves and pull the reins and take hold of this thing? Because we have the numbers to defeat them. We just have to collectively decide, are we actually going to exercise that power?
And if nothing else, maybe we do that if America won't consider to be a national day of remembrance. And this is different from a holiday. A holiday is more celebratory, right? A holiday is more like festive. This is not a holiday. A national day of remembrance is to an acknowledgement. And I think Brother Brian, you mentioned this, Brian Christian, you said acknowledgement, yes, holiday, hell no. No, this wouldn't be a holiday. And I agree with you, Brian. This would not be a holiday. This is a day of remembrance, just like 9/11 should have been a day of remembrance, right? Because something is happening to the psyche of America that forces us to say, you know what, we need to slow down everything else. This thing could be pulled out from right from under us in a matter of seconds, right? Our sense of security, our sense that our government is in a good place, our sense that order is intact. This thing could go left at any moment, based upon the mindset of an individual, whether it's one individual like a Trump or based upon a number of individuals like his supporters that we saw on January 6th. So we all should not be able to just be like, oh, no, it's cool. It happened. Because I don't know about y'all. That turned me. That made me think like, man, this thing is serious. This thing is real. And I can't go back into a space mentally, worrying about who's sleeping with who in the celebrity culture, who's wearing what, who's funny, and all this stuff. And you got people running up on the Capitol, right? You know what I'm saying? Looking to either kill the president, hang the vice president, or knock the head off of the Speaker of the House.
Because Black people decided to vote. I just want to, remind.
There it is. Hey, gotta go. But Kimberly, I thank you. Kimberly Morrow, make sure y'all follow her on all social media platforms. She's an author. She's an educator. She's a speaker. She's doing fantastic work, and she'll be continuing to join us here on Fridays here on The Culture. So we welcome her to the crew. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for your time. My sister, Corinna Denise, y'all know who she is. My sister, Corinna, college admission advisor. She's a political strategist. She's an activist. So Corinna, thank you so much. Make sure y'all follow her on social media at Ren_Ren84. She's always posting some pictures. She's always posting some pictures. So it's all good. It's all good, folks. Big shout out to Smooth Approach and Luther Lyle for their support of us here on The Culture and the Black Star Network. They came in as members of Smooth Approach. Welcome to the Bring the Funk Fan Club Level 1. We thank you so much for your support, your donation, and making sure that we continue to do this great work. Smooth Approach, Luther Lyle, thank you for being so good for the culture. But Corinna, Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to reconnecting with y'all both next week, God willing.
See you next week. Have a great weekend.
See you next week. You too. Folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you from the crew for joining us. Thank you for all of you on the crew on the X platform, on Facebook, and of course, my crew on YouTube page. Make sure you do yourself your favor and check us out on our website at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network. Also follow yours truly, me, Farajii Muhammad. You can follow me at The Real Farajii on Instagram, Farajii on Twitter, Farajii Muhammad on Facebook. I would love to connect with you. Continue to build with you, but I thank you so much. Follow Big Brother Roland Martin as well. He don't have enough followers like I don't have enough followers, so y'all make sure y'all follow us too. And of course, make sure y'all do your due diligence. Let your family and friends know about the work we're doing here on the Black Star Network, all right? Big shout out to my production team. Thank you so much for making the show happen. Maddie, Lise, Keenan, thank you. And of course, we invite you to stick around 6 p.m. Eastern time. Big Brother Roland Martin, he's been on vacation, but the show RMU has been jumping and thumping, folks. So make sure y'all tune in for that as well on this Friday evening. I have to say thank you so much. Look, always remember this. Never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk on Monday for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Have a great evening. Have a wonderful weekend and talk to you soon, God willing. Peace.